Imagine a courtroom drama so seismic it does not just shake the pillars of American law but sends shockwaves through the nation's very identity. Picture a story where a former president faces allegations that reach back nearly 3 decades, a tale that weaves together fame, power, and accountability in a way rarely witnessed in modern history. This is more than a legal dispute. It is a test of the boundaries between truth, power, and the resilience of those who dare to speak out. How did an encounter in a storied Manhattan department store transform into the most scrutinized lawsuit of the century? And what does this mean for the future of justice in America, and perhaps the world? To understand the magnitude of the E. Jean Carroll versus Donald Trump case, let's step back to the spring of 1996. The world was different then. Bill Clinton was president, the internet was just beginning to reshape society, and in the heart of Manhattan, the luxurious Bergdorf Goodman department store stood as a symbol of sophistication and exclusivity. E. Jean Carroll, a celebrated advice columnist and television personality, describes what began as a chance meeting with Donald Trump, then a celebrity real estate mogul, in the store's corridors. According to Carroll, what started as playful banter escalated inside a dressing room, culminating in an act of sexual assault that would haunt her for years to come. For more than 2 decades, Carroll kept her story private, confiding only in 2 close friends. As she later recounted, fear, shame, and the daunting prospect of challenging one of America's most powerful men kept her silent. It was not until the surge of the #MeToo movement and a broader cultural reckoning with sexual misconduct that Carroll decided, in 2019, to step forward. Her revelation, published in a memoir excerpt in New York Magazine, ignited a national firestorm. Suddenly, Carroll became both a symbol and a lightning rod, her allegations dissected on television screens and social media feeds across the country. Donald Trump's reaction was swift and scathing. He categorically denied the allegations, asserting, in typical combative style, that Carroll was fabricating the story for publicity and political reasons. He went further, launching personal attacks on her character and motives. Trump's denials and disparaging remarks were not just private musings. They were amplified from the White House, with the eyes of the world watching. It was here that the case took on an even greater significance. Carroll, refusing to be silenced, sued Trump for defamation, arguing that his public attacks had damaged her reputation and subjected her to ridicule and threats. For the first time in American history, a sitting president faced a civil lawsuit for statements made while in office about alleged conduct from decades earlier. The legal battle that ensued became one of the most closely watched cases of the era, blending questions of presidential immunity, free speech, and the rights of survivors. As the litigation unfolded, new dimensions of the conflict emerged. Carroll's legal team, led by the formidable Roberta Kaplan, meticulously built a case around credibility, corroborating evidence, and expert testimony about trauma and memory. In a bold move, the court permitted 2 other women to testify about alleged sexual misconduct by Trump, one from the 1970s and another from 2005, illustrating a pattern of behavior and bolstering Carroll's claims. Trump's lawyers decried this as unfair and prejudicial, arguing that the trial was tainted by what they called indefensible evidentiary rulings. The trials, spanning 2 separate jury proceedings, were historic. In the first, the jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation, awarding Carroll $5 million in damages. The second trial, focused on further defamatory statements Trump made after the first verdict, resulted in an even more staggering $83 million awarded to Carroll. These were not just numbers. They represented a rare and powerful rebuke to a former president and an affirmation of Carroll's claims. The financial fallout has been extraordinary. By June of 2025, Donald Trump's legal expenses had skyrocketed to approximately $12.3 million, a sum that would cripple most defendants. Carroll's legal team, for their part, incurred nearly $5 million in costs, reflecting years of painstaking work, expert consultations, and security needs. The personal toll on Carroll has been immense. Since the first trial, she has spent about $25,000 every month on security, a sobering reminder of the risks and sacrifices involved in taking on a figure as polarizing as Trump. Public sentiment has consistently supported Carroll. A Quinnipiac poll conducted in May of 2025 revealed that 62% of Americans found her allegations credible. This overwhelming show of belief stands in stark contrast to decades of skepticism faced by survivors, a testament to shifting attitudes and the power of high-profile cases to reshape public consciousness. Carroll has become an icon for many, her perseverance celebrated by activists, legal scholars, and ordinary people alike. But the impact of this case extends far beyond the courtroom. Inspired in part by Carroll's courage and the national conversation her case sparked, the New York State Legislature is now considering Bill S-8479, which would extend the statute of limitations for sexual assault claims. If passed, this legislation could open the doors of justice for countless survivors who, like Carroll, waited years or even decades to come forward. The ripple effects are already being felt as legal advocates and lawmakers debate how best to balance the rights of the accused with the need for accountability. Yet behind the headlines and public debates, the legal battle remains fiercely contested. Trump's legal team, refusing to accept defeat, has appealed every major ruling. In a recent decision, a federal appeals court rejected Trump's petition for a full rehearing, upholding the $5 million judgment and dismissing his arguments about trial fairness. Notably, the panel included judges appointed by both Democratic and Republican presidents, highlighting the case's nonpartisan gravity. Dissenting judges, however, echoed Trump's complaints, describing the proceedings as marred by indefensible evidentiary rulings and warning that the verdict rested on few reliable facts. This legal tug-of-war is about far more than money. It raises fundamental questions about whether America's most powerful citizens are truly subject to the same laws as everyone else. Constitutional scholar Lawrence Tribe has emphasized that the case demonstrates even former presidents are not immune from liability for their words and actions. Meanwhile, Alan Dershowitz has warned that the Carroll case sits at the crossroads of free speech and accountability, forcing society to grapple with how far the First Amendment's protections should extend when powerful figures make defamatory statements. Other experts have weighed in as well. Ken Starr, the late independent counsel, suggested that the massive damages awarded could have a chilling effect on free speech, potentially opening the floodgates to similar lawsuits against public figures. Emily Bazelon, a legal journalist, has noted the challenges inherent in litigating decades-old sexual assault claims, where memories fade and tangible evidence is scarce. Joan Smith, a leading advocate for survivors, called the verdict a watershed moment, demonstrating that justice is possible even against the most formidable opponents. Lisa Bloom, a prominent attorney, described Carroll's victory as a beacon of hope for women who have long been silenced, proof that persistence can change the course of history. As the dust settles, the future remains uncertain and fraught with high stakes. Trump's legal team is preparing for a possible showdown in the Supreme Court, a scenario that could redefine the boundaries of presidential immunity and the reach of defamation law. Should the Supreme Court take up the case, it would be the first time America's highest court addresses whether a former president can be held personally and financially liable for statements made while in office about pre-presidential conduct. Legal observers anticipate that such a case could force the court to clarify the limits of free speech for those wielding immense power. But what if Trump's appeals ultimately fail? Carroll's attorneys, already battle-tested, may pursue aggressive measures to collect the damages awarded. This could include seeking to seize Trump's assets, potentially creating the unprecedented spectacle of a former president facing public asset seizures to satisfy court judgments. Such a development would not only be legally significant, but would also send a powerful message about the reach of accountability in American society. Meanwhile, the political and cultural landscape continues to evolve. In Albany, lawmakers are fiercely debating whether to enact Bill S-8479, which would extend the window for sexual assault survivors to file lawsuits. The bill's supporters point to Carroll's ordeal as a catalyst for change, arguing that justice delayed should not mean justice denied. If the bill passes, it could transform the legal environment for survivors across New York, and perhaps inspire similar reforms in other states. All of these developments come at an extraordinary cost. Donald Trump's legal bills now approach $12.5 million, an eye-watering figure by any standard. Carroll's team has spent just under $5 million, and Carroll herself continues to shoulder monthly security costs of about $25,000. These are more than just financial figures. They represent the immense personal and professional sacrifices required to pursue justice against entrenched power. Yet the consequences are not only legal and financial, they are deeply cultural. The Carroll verdict has energized advocacy groups, inspired legislative reform, and emboldened survivors nationwide. In a powerful gesture, Carroll donated $1 million of her damages to the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, helping to support other women in their pursuit of justice. Gloria Steinem, a legendary activist, praised the verdict as a testament to the courage of E. Jean Carroll, declaring that powerful men are not above the law. So, what lessons can we draw from this extraordinary case at the crossroads of law, politics, and culture? First, it shows that the justice system, while often frustratingly slow and imperfect, can serve as a vital check on the powerful. Carroll's journey from disbelief and silence to legal vindication highlights the importance of persistence and the incremental nature of progress. For decades, Carroll endured skepticism and hostility, yet found validation in the courts, a victory that resonates far beyond her own story. For viewers, the practical takeaways are clear and urgent. On a personal level, the case is a powerful reminder that speaking out, even in the face of overwhelming odds and entrenched power, can make a difference. Carroll's example demonstrates that courage is contagious, and that one voice, amplified by allies and the law, can break through even the most fortified defenses. On a civic level, the case underscores the impact of public pressure, collective action, and legal advocacy. Carroll's choice to donate a portion of her award to the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund has already expanded access to justice for other survivors, illustrating how individual victories can ripple outward and create systemic change. But the Carroll case also compels us to examine our responses to allegations of wrongdoing, especially when the accused are influential or beloved figures. Too often, survivors face disbelief, character attacks, and institutional obstacles. The national conversation sparked by Carroll's lawsuit has exposed these barriers and inspired a new generation to demand transparency, fairness, and accountability. As Lisa Bloom observed, Carroll's victory is a beacon of hope for women who have been silenced and marginalized, showing that it is possible to hold even the most powerful accountable. Will this verdict set a lasting precedent, or will it be swept away in the whirlwind of partisan politics? The answer, as always in America, is complex. Legally, the courts have spoken with clarity. No one, not even a former president, stands above the law when it comes to defamation and accountability for personal misconduct. Socially, the case has galvanized grassroots movements, inspired legislative efforts, and emboldened survivors. Yet, in a nation as polarized as the United States, some will inevitably see only political theater, a reflection of deeper divisions about justice, gender, and truth. And there are lesser-known details that reveal the case's enduring impact. For example, the very dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman where the alleged assault took place was demolished in the year 2000 during a major renovation. The physical evidence is gone, but its absence only underscores the difficulties survivors face in proving historical claims and the importance of corroborating testimony and public belief. In a sense, the case is about more than what happened in a single room. It is about how society chooses to remember, believe, and act. Looking ahead, the story does not end with court rulings or financial judgments. In early 2026, the release of a documentary titled Not My Type, The E. Jean Carroll Story, is expected to reignite public interest and spark renewed debate about sexual violence, accountability, and the power of narrative. Legal experts predict that the precedents set in Carroll's trials will shape future litigation, especially in cases involving Me Too evidence and high-profile defendants. Ultimately, the E. Jean Carroll versus Donald Trump case will be studied for years to come, as a landmark in American law, a flashpoint in cultural change, and a testament to the enduring struggle for justice. It is a reminder that while the wheels of justice may turn slowly and unevenly, they can, with enough pressure and persistence, move even the largest obstacles. For every survivor watching, for every citizen questioning whether the powerful can ever be held to account, Carroll's story offers both a warning and a promise. If you found this analysis insightful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you believe this case will fundamentally change how America holds the powerful accountable? Or is it destined to become just another chapter in the nation's ongoing struggle with justice? Share your